Hi, I'm Jean Alfonso-Decena, founder of In Silence, and you are watching Channa 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 podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. I'm really happy to have this person on my podcast today. So, I have my friend Jean Alfonso-Decena joining the podcast. Hi, Jean.
Hey, Channa, super good to see you always.
Yeah, how are you
It's been
doing
a
this
while.
morning? Huh?
It's been a while. I mean, apart from when I saw you 2 weeks ago, it's
Yeah,
been a while since we saw each other.
right, right. Yeah, it's a long time. How you been doing? Especially with this pandemic and everything, with this chaos.
I've been doing great. I feel fortunate to not have been disrupted too much in so many ways. I
Hmm.
mean, it's very sad to hear and see so many bad news and bad things that's been brought upon by the pandemic. But in my life, the biggest disruption was really just the traveling. So, my family and I, we have not traveled since the pandemic. I'm sorry, those
Yeah,
are the dogs. But apart from that, everything is great. Everything is great.
right. So, when did you last travel?
Oh my goodness. 2019 September, I was in California. I was in my usual California run.
Right.
But at that time, we were also preparing for our move to Japan. So I intentionally limited my travel after returning from California because we were preparing for my husband to leave. So it feels like ages ago.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Although it's like just 1 year, it's like it feels like a very long, right?
For sure. It feels like 10, 20 years ago.
Right, right. Yeah. So Jean, I think I first met you maybe around 2015. I think probably first on the vegan potluck. I think, um,
Yes. I think
and then
it
and then
must
also,
have been.
yeah. And also we were in, I think we were in the Nancy's yoga class. I used to join like few classes of Nancy's yoga.
Yes, I think it was even earlier than 2015. It must have been 2013 or
Right,
2014.
right.
You're right. It was a vegan potluck and Nancy's yoga class at the park.
Right, right, right. So regarding the veganism, how long you been a vegan, Jean?
So I went vegan in 2012. So so more or less 9, has it been 9? More or less 9 years. But
Right.
I recently transitioned to plant-based whole food. So I'm half vegan, half whole food plant-based. We try to keep away from the oil and the salt and a lot of the processed food.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So it's like going further.
I guess you can say that. I turned 40 last year and I started to notice some changes in my body
Mm,
that I it felt like just being vegan wasn't enough for me anymore. And our daughter is growing up also, so I wanted to make sure that I'm giving her the healthiest possible option. So I started researching into plant-based whole foods, and I actually took a culinary course in December last year, to study to know how to prepare and cook, and to understand where the food comes from, right?
mm,
Apart from what I already knew. So that just spring forwarded me to taking on the whole food plant-based diet.
right, right. So, Jean, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood? Growing up. Where did you grow up, and what did you do in school?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. So I grew up in the Philippines, in the city that used to be a town. It's in Pasig. So
Mm,
it's in the eastern part of Metro Manila. I grew up with my mom, and the early childhood years were with my dad and my mom and my older brother. Um, and the earliest memory I can remember is my parents loving each other so much. My dad was the first yogi that I've ever had in my life. He was very free spirited. He told me about the seven cycles of the universe. And at
right.
that time, I didn't understand what he was saying. He was into herbs, he was into rock and roll, he was living his life according to his terms, regardless what the world said or judged him on. So it was a very fun first 8 years of my life, and the first 4 years, first 5 years was always the two of them loving each other, and I was playing GI Joes more than the Barbies. I was
Right.
playing with my brother's stuff, and more boy stuff than more girl stuff.
Right.
It's so funny that you asked that.
Right. Um, what did you do? What did you study in school? Like what in college?
In school, I was studying tourism during my first year in college, and then I stopped. I moved into programming for 3 months, and then I stopped again. I moved into mass communications. So that was 2.5 years of mass communications, and then I decided not to finish it. Because my heart was looking for other things apart from the fact that I needed to be the breadwinner for the family. But really, it's more about the traditional school wasn't for me. I
Mm,
wanted to learn in life,
right.
so I got out of college and started working. And I worked in Tower Records.
Right.
A big chunk of my adult life was spent with Tower Records and music, being in bands, and attending rock concerts. Which is
Yeah.
totally different from my life now.
Yeah, that was. I was actually surprised when you told me that, and I saw some of the like some photos in your Facebooks that. So you were actually in a couple of bands, right? So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was in 3 bands. Even I am surprised that I'm saying that now when you told me about this podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, I was in 3 bands. The first one was a mini project. I was just a guest vocalist for the band called Purple. Oh my
Mm,
goodness, it was a long time ago. It was an indie band, more like a Mamas and the Papas kind of vibe.
mm,
And then I started to talk about singing a lot of Fiona Apple and Garbage and alternative women
mm.
music. And my supervisor in Tower Records, who became a really good friend of mine, invited me to join his all male band. So I was the singer, and we
Right.
were playing all alternative. We were getting paid to play gigs in malls. I was singing, you know, as I said, Garbage, Fiona Apple, Alanis Morissette, some Incubus. Um, what else? A lot of the alternative 90s music. So not very heavy. I listened to metal on my own, but never had the courage to sing or growl or just perform it. I've always been just chill alternative, quietly angsty in my own singing of the songs.
Right.
So we were doing a lot of covers. And then the third was my own that I formed. It's called Jersey Jean. So the second band was called Milkfish. I wasn't the leader. I was just a vocalist following my friend's lead, and it was great. But the third band was my own. but my bandmates decided to call it Jersey Jean because of my username.
Mm.
In all social media and emails, I'm Jersey Jean. So they said, let's call it Jersey Jean. And we were still covering a lot of alternative. We were doing Jean Blossoms. Um, oh my goodness, what else? A lot of Fiona Apple, a lot of Garbage, a lot of Meha. So Meha is a bit poppy, but also very social political and spiritual in our songs. But yeah, Jersey Jean was the longest. I think we played for 2 years when I was in IBM. Um, it was, we were playing in Quezon City, in Kamuning. And it was just a great time. I was wearing all black all the time, black boots, black shorts, black everything. It was super fun. I had my really good friends join me in that band. But I was already married. We had my daughter already at that time. So after about 2 years, I'm like, I should be focused on being a mom now.
Right.
But I was playing in that band when our daughter was about 2, 3 years old. She was very little. So that was my my stint as a vocalist in bands.
Right. You mentioned about Tower Records. One thing that I really miss from that era is that those record stores like HMV, Tower Records. And I remember coming to the Philippines for the first time, and there was, I think the Tower Records were in Glorieta, right? Glorieta,
Yes.
right? So I remember buying the first record there, like I think
Yes.
that was in 2006. So
Oh
do
my
you miss that
goodness.
sort of era? Because those days the stores were sort of magical, right?
So much, so much. A lot of my formative adult years was spent in Tower Records. I was a customer service person, so I was in front of the people who have issues, returns,
Mm,
increase, or just any increase about the records that they're looking for. So it was I made a lot of my lifelong friends through that experience. I only worked there for 6 months, but that 6 months felt like 6 decades. There was a lot of rock and roll activities happening there that I couldn't talk about, in public.
right.
But it was a lot of formative years, lots of music, all kinds of music. For a while, I was assigned to the dance section. So I listened to a lot of trip hop. So a lot of Baligo Mingo, Morchiba, um, the Rose Chronicles. But I had friends in the jazz section. I had friends in the metal section. I had friends in the pop rock alternative section. So I was all over the place. It was truly magical, Chana, like you said. It's being in a completely different world. You can
Mm,
come in as you are. Don't worry about what you do. Don't worry about how you look. You come as you are, wear what you want. We got into a lot of trouble so many times, but again, it's just pure magic and a lot of authentic friendship and a lot of authentic humanity that occurred in that time and space. And it was very sad when it closed all over the world.
mm,
So the only hope we have is the Tower Records in Tokyo.
right.
That was the last Tokyo Tower Records that I visited in 2018.
Yeah, I think I went to 2016, I went to Ireland and Dublin, they still have the store open. They have Tower Records, HMV is still
Oh
there.
my goodness. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's still there. It's like,
Ireland is also magical, huh? Yeah.
right, right.
Good for you.
Uh, so, Gene, over the years, did your sort of music taste changed?
It changed when I got into yoga,
Mm,
but a few days a week I still listen to my Incubus. So Brandon Boyd of Incubus is like my idol, my icon.
right.
He helped form my social political beliefs, which I carry until now.
Mm,
His music opened me to the truths of the world. And And so I still listen to him. I still listen to the same music that I was playing and singing back in the 90s and early 2000s. But it changed big time when I shifted into practicing yoga. So a big chunk of my time is now spent listening to high frequency music that's healing for the soul, meditative music, a lot of earth music also. So a lot of instruments that's made with earth materials and
Mhm.
music from nature. So yeah, there's a big shift, but during weekends, especially when I do my chores, I still listen to rock.
Right.
Because you cannot be enlightened all the time. You have to have the rock music.
Right, right. Yeah. So you perform in bands, but later on you actually also I know that you were involved with the company that was sort of providing the Pro Tools, right?
Oh yes, yes, yes. Oh, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, so I was hired by Avid Technology in 2014, I think it was. They found me in LinkedIn, and they offered me this position, and I loved it because again, it's a lot of music, artistry, the software and the hardware that musicians and music producers and filmmakers around the world are using. So that's what Avid produces, and they're the top brand for that. So that got me excited, and during my stint in Avid, I got to experience having to take manager calls from Chaka Khan, from
Wow.
musicians that we just listened to because they couldn't get their Pro Tools to work, or one of our representatives was talking to Adam Levine because he needed help with his Pro Tools. So it was surreal to have these. For me, musicians are enlightened beings, and so it was surreal to know that they were just at the other end of the line, talking to either me or my team members. So yeah, it was a great 3.5 years of run in Avid Technology. I got to visit the offices in Massachusetts, in Berkeley, in Mountain View, in California. So I got to meet California musicians and musicians from Massachusetts also. So that was cool. That was cool.
Right.
You're great. You're great at reminding me these things. I almost forgot about it.
Yeah. So also one
I've
more
always
thing.
been surrounded with music.
Yeah. So one more thing I realized also, like I sort of met a lot of musicians, and then for the last 20 years I've been going to so many concerts, so many meetings, so many artists, and I've been interviewing a couple of my favorite artists also on the podcast. So what I realize is that you see in the media that they're like rock stars, they're gods, and like, but when you talk to them like face to face, or they're you feel how human they are, right? That they're so, some people are so humble. I can't imagine that they're so humble with with all the glory they have.
Definitely, definitely. And again, you reminded me of Gin Blossoms. I actually spent 3 days with them. Um, and it was just, we just came, my friend and I, my friend who's a big fan of Gin Blossoms. We just decided to try and give it a shot and talk to their manager to ask if we can hang out with them, and they allowed us. So I'm
Wow.
not sure if it's because we're women, but we were, and we didn't care if we were called a groupie, but they were humble adults. They were very gracious gentlemen. We did not feel any kind of malicious intent. We were hanging out at Yellow Cab in Robinson's Galleria. We were
Mm.
at their VIP room. It's not their hotel room, but it's a VIP room to lounge just for the band. So we were hearing their producers, their promoters, and the bands, their plans for the day, their candid thoughts, and we're like, wow, these are rock stars, and yet they're so grounded, and they have very simple joys, and they were talking about their own families and significant others, and they were asking us about the Philippines, and they let us take home the rest of the box of the pizza from Yellow Cab. So Gin Blossoms was a great experience. Yeah, it's surreal to know, just like what you said, that they're very simple and
Mm.
humble. They just really want the music out in the world.
Right, right. So, so Jean, I want to talk about your yoga journey because I know we were in the same classes before, and then I saw I always see like in your Facebook you're always practicing, and then now I know you're also a teacher. So, can you tell me that journey about yoga?
Sure. So in 2012, in 2011 actually, I started exploring yoga because my anxiety attacks were getting worse.
Mm.
I've always had anxiety attacks since I was in high school, but I didn't put a lot of attention to it. But because I had a daughter already, and I would I would pass out in malls. It was a good thing we had a helper. She had a nanny who's now a family member to us. She's like a sister to us. So I would have collapsing days in Rockwell, in Tower Play. And it's a good thing a lot of those establishments there know me and my family. So I knew that I can just go to this ice cream shop and tell them, "Hey, you know what? I'm about to pass out. Take care of my daughter for 5 minutes." And so that's how I started to look into yoga and all other physical activities actually. And yoga was the only thing that started to heal me in so many ways. And that's when I, became a hardcore Jivamukti yoga practitioner. And I became so hardcore that I followed the founders, across Asia and the US. And I almost studied to become a certified teacher for Jivamukti yoga. Um, and now, until now, I still practice that, but I also incorporate a lot of meditation now and a lot of calisthenics also. So I take turns every day doing calisthenics workouts, and then my active rest days is active yoga, and then every day I meditate. The meditation really did the whole magic. It just completed the whole thing for me. So I'm doing more than the asanas now, and I'm trying to share what I learned through that experience.
Right. So I know that you started something called In Silence, which try to incorporate this meditation, yoga, and share this. So can you tell me about In Silence, the concept of In Silence, and what story behind it?
Yes, yes. Thank you for asking. So the idea of In Silence came about in 2018. That's after I came from a 10-day Vipassana meditation in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
I did my Vipassana meditation in Sri Lanka, such a beautiful, magical country. I love it. It has a big place in my heart now. So after Vipassana meditation, it was actually 12 days. After Sri Lanka, I headed to India to get certified to become a Hatha yoga teacher. So I spent 40 days in India after Sri Lanka. And while I was in India, that idea came to mind. It wasn't called In Silence yet. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but the idea came about. I just wanted to share to Filipinos my whole spiritual journey because I was able to do a lot of introspection in Sri Lanka and India. I realized how my own spiritual healing journey unfolded. It wasn't easy. It took years.
Mm.
It took a lot of travel. It took a lot of money. It took a lot of conversations and a lot of failures also. So I thought these are essential information and knowledge that everybody should know, but it's hard to access. And I know that a lot of Filipinos want the same thing, but they couldn't access it. Either they don't have the money, or they don't have the network, or they don't even know how to get started because there's a lot of stigma and a lot of misconception about yoga. A lot of people think yoga is expensive. um, a lot of people think that changing the diet to help the yoga meditation practice is difficult and expensive also. So there's a lot of connotation there. A lot of people are intimidated to go to studios. So I wanted to come up with a platform that will allow Filipinos to study and find out what are the other yoga, meditation, healing modalities that they can try out. Because my experience um, involved a lot of experimentation, a lot of trying and testing out teachers and teachings and diet and a lot of books, a lot of videos and conferences. So I want to bring it into a platform that Filipinos can easily access through paid content and free content. So depending on where they are in their life,
Mm,
maybe they can afford something or maybe they can't. I want them to have a little bit of introduction to all of these many healing modalities. So there's, Chinese medicine also, there's meditation. So it's a lot of ancient wisdom from India, from China, from Sri Lanka, from Nepal, from Japan, even. So I want to come up with a platform that's where it's going to be accessible for Filipinos to study and learn about all of these healing modalities without having to break the bank, without
mm,
having to worry about wearing Lululemons, without having to worry about so many other things. I want them to feel that they have access to these no matter where they are in their life, and and they can actually do it at their homes, or when if they're traveling, especially now that a lot of people are working from anywhere. They could be traveling, they could be at home, they could be at a place where they are stuck because of COVID. I want to help and create that space for them, to practice and study. So that's how In Silence came about. And the name In Silence is because a lot of my healing and realizations and learned wisdom came from being silent. Because there's a lot of chatter and noise in the world. I want to help and introduce that to Filipinos.
right, right. One thing that I noticed from looking at the material of In Silence on, like, in Facebook, you coined this phase called conscious living. So, uh, can you tell me what do you mean by conscious living?
Sure. I actually didn't coin that. I don't know who coined that term, but it's the concept of living your life with full awareness. And the reason why I say that is because I came from what I think was a sleeping zombie life for many years. I was just allowing the tide to carry me to wherever versus the kind of life that I live now, which is very intentional.
Mm,
I'm speaking to you in this podcast because I truly meditated upon it. I made the full decision to commit to it because I trust you, because there's so many things that came into play.
mm,
So a lot of my decisions and actions and activities are based on my own sovereign decision. And I want to share that conscious living and the practice and introduce that to a lot of Filipinos because a lot of the mental health issues, a lot of the struggles and suffering are coming from that, from not having the sovereignty to make the decision for themselves, because usually social media or TV or their bosses or their significant others or whomever, their peers, parents, tell people what to do, where they should be, when truly their heart is telling them to do something else. So I want Filipinos to practice and be introduced to that, no, to that concept that they actually can own their life and they can make things happen according to what they want to see happen. So that's what I mean with conscious living, and that's what I hope to introduce and share through In Silence, through the practice of yoga, meditation, and using conscious technology also, the conscious consumption of technology.
right. So, talking about technology, especially the this thing and all the apps and social media. So, uh, I've been also trying to do, because I was quite active on social media. I think I was too much active, and actually, after I started creating the podcast, I realized that I still need to use social media, but I don't think I need to have the same. I don't need to put that much of attention to it, like, my personal attention. So I've been sort of monitoring my screen time and trying to reduce it, and try to reduce all the Facebook friends and you know, uh, um, one thing really sort of push me towards that is so the negativity that I see in the social media. It's so depressing sometimes, right? It's so tragic, actually.
Yes, very tragic. Yes. Um, I hear you. I had an experience also. I had a period in my life also where I was loving and hating it. I was 1000% in social media, and then I would pull back,
Mm,
and I think for a month I would not do social media. And I thought that was very unhealthy for me because I was swinging in very extreme polarities of the spectrum, which is not balanced. It's not
mm,
keeping me centered. So I thought about, I observed and studied and researched, talked to people about how am I supposed to have this relationship with social media and technology, because it looks like it's an inevitable part of our lives now. So how do I build this relationship? What kind of relationship do I want? And then Star Butter AI found me. And
mm.
at that point, I was in India when they found me, and I'm like, wait, I'm trying to be spiritual and all. Why is this AI company talking to me about, getting hired and working with them? And again, I meditated upon it, and I was so afraid because I'm like, AI, why would I work for an AI company and a company that's trying to make things that's taking over the world? Um, but during the screening process, I was also researching on AI. And along with that research, a lot of the technological innovations, including social media and, machine learning and so
Mm,
many other things, and the internet even. And through my Starbutter experience, I realized that technology is the future. We cannot take it out of our life now. So I developed a relationship with technology where it's not controlling me, and that's where the conscious living comes in.
mm,
Just like you, I'm very intentional about what kind of content do I consume, when do I use my gadget, what kind of podcast what kind of podcasts do I listen to and
mm.
be associated with, right? So, just like you also, I mentioned to you that I started cleaning up my social media connections, because yeah, it's a lot of depressing, a lot of negative political battles between people unfriending each other because of their political views, which is not my category as to why I would unfriend someone.
Right.
It's a different thing. But I feel you. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And I noticed that I had like so many contacts, but I don't think I have even talked to that person for like 5 6 years. So I don't know why I still need to have them as a friend in Facebook, right? Because it seems like it's just
Yeah.
cluttering. And also one thing I noticed, the Facebook algorithm, that once I start removing a lot of these peoples and pages, following the pages, I started seeing some more new people and some new posts and some some other friends that who doesn't appear on the news feed, right?
Yeah, exactly. The algorithm, right? There's a lot of talk about the algorithm. We are still in control of that.
Yeah,
Exactly what you said. A lot of people ask me about that. They're like, how does Facebook know what I want? And because I work in the AI space, I know so well how the algorithm works. And I know you know how these works also, right? Because you're in
right.
the big tech space also. So, but I didn't know that before AI, before Starbutter AI, because
Mm,
I was just in the spiritual space. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Technology is here to stay. It's only gonna get bigger and bigger. But at the same time, the spirituality space is also getting bigger. And again, that's what I want to marry with In Silence. I want Filipinos to know, and actually not just Filipinos. In fact, I'm getting responses from people all over the world through In Silence, but just
right.
help people be conscious with with what they do with technology, what kinds of relationships they nurture and build, so that they can live the life that they want.
Right. So a lot of people think that when you say AI, that artificial intelligence, this is something in the future, but it's actually here already, right? We experience that every day, right?
Yes.
So it's already here, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's actually been operating for 60 years now. Could you believe that? I was mind blown about that. 60 years, right? And I
Right,
only joined the AI space 3 years ago, and I'm considered a pioneer in AI.
right,
So it's all over us. It's in our phones. It's in these podcast apps. It's in our washing machines.
right.
It's in Uber and Grab. So yes, it's been around.
So Jean, how did you get into? I know you started your career in like sort of customer service space, and then how did you move into AI? Can you tell me about that journey?
I know. Yes, yes, yes. It's I always think that it's a very auspicious connection. So I got introduced to the CEO and founder of Starbutter AI by a very by my most amazing mentor, who's now a friend and soul family, soul sister. So I got introduced to the CEO, and it wasn't instant because we've been trying to be introduced for several months before our actual meeting. um my mentor friend was telling me that this startup in California was looking for someone who has content writing slash customer service slash network in the Philippines, forming a startup team in the Philippines kind of experience. And she thought about me because she believed in me. She knows how I work, and she thought it's a good match. And then
Mm,
after that, the CEO and I, we met, and then he liked me, and so he introduced me to his co-founders, and the rest is history. So I was hired for my customer service writing, and Philippine network, and helping startups, because before Starbutter AI, I've always worked within the startup space, starting with IBM when they were forming their startup physical presence in the Philippines. I was part of the pioneering team. Then after that, there was another startup in California where I got hired, and then Avid Technology, when they were forming their team in the Philippines, I was part of the startup also. So I've always been in the startup scene,
right.
which is part of the reason why I was hired with Instar Butter. And I didn't have any AI, any fintech, any machine learning experience, but I was trained in house. I was thrown into an in-house bootcamp training, and until now, I'm still studying because
Mm,
it's ever evolving. It changes every day.
right, right. Um, you know, like, how is this experience? I know that I saw some of your videos that you spoke on DevCon, and you spoke, talking to the Google group and all this, becoming a speaker, and how's that experience?
Yes, Chana. I never imagined that I was gonna speak. So it was through the prodding of my CEO, my CEO in Starbutter, my founders, the three founders in Starbutter. They just gave birth to my technical technical speaking capacity. It was through the prodding of Arun Rao, my CEO in Starbutter. He told me to really put myself out there in the Philippine scene, which is the same thing that I want to share to the Filipinos, that you can do this. And so I did. I just looked for events, and I started to reach out to people, tried to see how I can help. And my very first event, I actually reached out to them to become a participant. But after they saw my resume and my credentials, they said, you should be a mentor. Um, so that was the start of it. It was Techstars Startup Week in Manila, and then after that, I think every month I would have either a speaking or mentorship event because of the network, because people were getting to know me, and they were liking my background and experience, and I was okay with sharing my experience. So I got the whole year of 2019 was focused on just immersing myself in the Philippine scene, because I've always been very connected with the California Silicon Valley scene, that there was an opportunity for me to speak on stage and to people and to groups. So that's how it is. One thing led to another, which started with Techstars Manila.
Right, right. So Jean, I see, knowing you for some time now, I see that you support so many different causes. You volunteer your time, for pet, for stray animals and tree planting and all these different causes. Where does that motivation urge comes from, and where do you have the energy to do all these things?
That's so funny. Thank you for asking that. These are, apart from helping Filipinos, helping homeless animals and humans
Mm,
are a big part of my heart. This is because there was a big part of my early childhood and high school years when we were very poor. And I'm proud to say that, because it was I learned so much from that experience. It made me a really strong human being, and also compassionate at the same time.
mm,
It helped me work harder and treat people equally, and all of those nice things. And so when I started to have the opportunities in my life, I always want to give back. And I even before going vegan, I've always loved animals already. I grew up with birds and dogs, and so dogs are a natural magnet to me, and I know how it is to feel hungry. So
mm.
whenever I could, actually every day I feed someone, at least one human and one dog, during my trips to Rockwell or wherever it is. And
Right.
usually when I travel also, I try to sit down with homeless people, especially in New York. I love talking to New York homeless people, because they're so wise. But yeah, that's coming from that time in my life where I knew how it felt to have nothing materially, but I've always been surrounded and filled with love and laughter. So I wanted to give back when I started to become abundant materially in my life, through the help of my mentors, my friends, my family members who helped me, my husband most especially. And so that's where it's coming from, and the energy is coming from whole food, plant based, and the yoga meditation practice. Um, yeah, I just really have more energy when I started to eat cleaner, and put in the workout every day. So workout could be a yoga practice, maybe it's slow, or maybe it's a calisthenics high intensity workout.
Mm. Right, right. Um, so, as you said, we met in sort of the vegan community, right? So I was a vegetarian for like about more than 3 years. Uh, I think I'm still is because I do eat a lot of vegetables still. So, but one thing that came out with this, I think what of people get discouraged of this there is a certain perception or perception of vegans that they are sometimes very aggressive, and because I think the reason you are going vegan is because you're compassionate about animals, and compassion the main reason, right? So sometimes it comes out that you're not really practicing that compassion, especially people who are not vegan. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So there's so many things I want to say about that, Chana, and you know that. But I'm trying to stay within my sphere of influence. So when I started as a vegan, I thought I was compassionate, and I think I was compassionate, but because of my strong yearning to help animals, be freed from suffering, and at the
Mm,
same time help humans be freed of their suffering of diseases and stuff, and to help the environment. I i had i had a an episode where I was not very conscious about it, and I learned that I was being aggressive through my friends who cared about me. They would tell
mm,
me that, "Hey Jean, your posts on Facebook are so, I'm curious to become vegan, but the graphic videos that you're posting, it's not helping me go vegan."
mm,
And these are very close friends of mine, and these are people who didn't offer their feedback to me. This was me asking them, because I noticed that they kind of became quiet
mm,
towards me. We're still friends, but the diet part of the conversation became a taboo. They almost didn't want to talk about it. They still love me and still liked hanging out with me, but that what became taboo. And there was, it was just different. And when I asked, that's when they said it's very disheartening because I'm not ready to hear and see these videos, and I want to go vegan, but I don't know how to get started. And it's definitely not through the graphic videos and not through aggressive language.
mm,
And through the years, I also started to see vegans all over the world, because I have a network in California, I have a network in the Philippines, just like you and me, and in other cities also. And there are certain groups that are truly aggressive
mm.
and almost to the point of righteousness. Like they're the only correct people, right people in the world, which
Right.
doesn't resonate with me because I didn't start out as vegan. I did not become vegan with that kind of environment. I became vegan because, Chana, you were part of that small community that helped me, because when I saw people like you attending these and having these vegan conversations in a very compassionate,
Right.
human manner and very forgiving manner, it allowed me to experiment and try and ask and keep on going. But now, I'm so happy because the world is turning vegan, but there's still some groups that are just not doing, just not representing veganism in a very positive light.
Mm,
And I want to change that. That's part of In Silence's vision, to let people know that you can get the support you need through a safe space without judging you. In fact, I have friends who would tell me that, Jean, I stopped being vegan. I hope you would not stop talking to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
right.
We are friends. Number one, we are friends. No matter who you are, I'm here to love you. If you're not vegan right now, I'm giving you the space. If you need to go through that process, you have to go through it. But I still love you. You're my friend. That kind of supportive space
Mm,
and support is
right.
what I want to see in the world, right? And I felt that through you also. You're very compassionate and quiet in so many ways and doing your own thing. So
Right. Right.
with your example, it helped me to push through in those early years.
Yeah. So I also believe the in silence thing, that doing things in silence. So,
Yes, yes. And just being conscious about it, right? It's not even, there's not even a point. It's actually pointless to just argue, you know?
right.
People are
Uh,
not ready. If people are not ready, then they're not ready.
right. So, Jean, one of your, one thing that I think we really got reconnected is that you started this minimum living, minimum living group, right? Which is about sort of a minimalistic lifestyle. So, can you tell me about this thing? Why this group was started, and
Yes. So again, part of the whole conscious living mindset and concept is or philosophy. I want to call it a philosophy. So part of the conscious living umbrella is your consumption. So not just consumption in the body through food, and not just consumption of content for your mental
mm,
and emotional space, but also your physical consumption. So my yoga journey got me into veganism, and then zero waste lifestyle, and then conscious technology consumption. And so my family and I, if you remember, my husband Jai, we both decided to start letting go of things that we didn't need, because we used to have a lot of stuff. We used to buy
Right.
so many expensive things that we truly didn't need. We would buy one thing and then not be satisfied. We'd go the next level up and still not satisfied. And we're like, we're just fooling ourselves, right? we're,
Right.
we're wasting a lot of money when that money could have been spent somewhere else. So we've been living kind of a zero waste lifestyle in so many ways in Mandaluyong, but also because of our migration to Osaka. So he's already in Japan, and Kamala and I are preparing to join him in a few months. We also need to let go of a lot of things. So
Right.
even if we have very minimal furniture and stuff, we still want to let go of stuff. So I thought I didn't want to sell and give our stuff to just anybody, because I believe that even inanimate objects have spirits.
Mm.
So I want to make sure that I either know the person that's going to take my things, or I know that the person could be a stranger but very intentional with the book that I need to let go of.
Right.
So I thought, okay, let me offer our stuff to my circle, and then whoever they decide to invite into the group, I'm okay with that, because these are going to be intentional people. So that's how the group came about. I didn't want to just post in marketplaces to just anyone. I
Mm.
really want our things to go to humans who would really use them and take care of them, and then bring them forward to the next person, whether it's giving them for free or also selling them, because money is still energy. So it's okay to sell them. So that's how it came about.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, I've been I do a lot of, I'm like, I collect so many different things. So, sometimes there's a very thin line between a collector and a hoarder, right? So it's it's
Yes, yes. I know. Oh my goodness. I
yeah.
couldn't imagine your collection of your records, Chana. You
Yeah, I
must
mean,
have a full room of it.
yeah, I've been trying to, actually trying to reduce a lot of things, and I've been sort of, there's sometimes there are things in your room that you never, like, I think you haven't even touched it in like years, right? But things are just there, and it doesn't really give you. So I've been trying to reduce a lot, actually. But when you are a collector, it's quite a different, different, experience.
Yes, yes. I used to have a lot of CDs also. My thing was CDs
Right.
when it was still, the thing. But I've let go of them a long time ago when we started our zero waste journey. My most difficult thing to let go of now are our books.
Right.
Really, really tough for me. It's really tough. So I understand what you mean. It's okay.
Yeah. So Jean, I know that you are there's a set of talks that you're planning to do upcoming, and can you tell everyone about this and how they can join?
Yes, yes. Thank you for asking about this. So I have I have some. I'm very busy. And and for the rest of March and before April 15, I will have a little bit more free time compared to before March 15 and after April 15. So I decided to give some talks on some of the things that usually my friends have asked me about. So for the last 10 years, colleagues, family members, friends have been asking me the same things. And I'm so happy to share these things. So, 10, I know, eight out of the top 20 things that people ask me about, either through coaching or mentorship or casual conversation, I decided to offer that in the form of a talk, of a 1 hour talk every Friday and Saturday.
Mm.
Um, and that's gonna happen through Google Hangout. or Zoom. I'm still deciding, but it's starting this coming Friday. And people who are interested can either ask me through my own social media and Facebook or Instagram, or go to our website beinsilence.com, or go to our social media come be in silence in both Instagram or Facebook. So there's a lot of options. There's an early rate, 200 per talk, or a bundled rate, and then even after the early rate period that's ending March 18, it's still a very affordable price. And apart from that, I curated a kit, a calming kit. So I put together my favorite things that help me calm down and stay centered and be quiet and remove the anxiety and confusion in my mind. So I put together a kit that I'm offering in a box. So that's 799 per box, or 1,500 pesos for two boxes. So whoever will buy those will get free access to the talks. So either they pay for the talk or the box so that they can get the talks for free, or they can even message me and tell me if they cannot afford it, I will give them a additional discounted rate. So what I'm doing is trying to offer these to whomever is interested according to where they are in their life. And I hope that's gonna accommodate.
Right. So, Jean, so lastly, I want to ask you. So, uh, I've been thinking about what's the meaning of happiness, right? So, for me, I think what I really feel that the happiness for me is like solving problems. That's sort of what keep me going, because when you fix one problem, there will be another problem, and it keeps on going, and you keep on working on it. So what's your idea of happiness?
Ooh, I love your question, Chana. Wow. So for a very long time, just like you, I've always it's like my top life question. How can you remain happy forever? And how can you help other people be happy? And everything that I've done for a very long time was geared towards that. So it wasn't even money. It wasn't even becoming rich. It was just being happy. And then when I started the Vipassana meditation, that changed. I learned that happiness is just one of the many emotions that we need to survive as human beings. It's a very critical basic need of humans. um, and now I'm no longer aiming for happiness. Now I'm working towards equanimity. Equanimity meaning no matter what life throws at you, or no matter what situation you find yourself in, whatever emotions you have, whether it's happiness or sadness or anger, whatever it is, it's finding that centered place so that you can observe that emotion and not be attached to it. So
Right.
that's my take on it now. I want to be happy all the time, yes, but I also want to be able to handle whatever grief, sadness, difficulty without suffering. So that's what I learned in Sri Lanka, Chana. That's
Mhm.
what I learned in Vipassana.
Yeah. So you were in Sri Lanka, where in Anuradhapura, right?
Anuradhapura, yes. In a
Yeah.
monastery, I lived with monks and snakes and monkeys.
Yeah, actually, Sri Lanka is a very nice place, right? So magical, actually.
Yeah, you are from there. And I've
Yeah.
been missing Sri Lanka so much. So hopefully, that's one of the reasons why I love you, apart from your pure energy. Just also knowing that you're from Sri Lanka, I think Sri Lankan people are just magical, out of this world. No words can describe Sri Lankan people.
Right. So Jean, what's your message to the viewers of this podcast?
Wow. Thank you for this honor, Chana. Just being asked to do this. My only message and wish and hope to any human beings watching is for them to take the time to love themselves, because that's where, because a lot of people don't love themselves truly. It's always about they're always after making other people happy, or meeting the deadline for this person, or achieving this for their family, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the most critical part of the equation is loving yourself so much so that you're taking care of yourself, so that you can truly take care of others. Because usually humans are serving and doing and operating and working and loving from a half filled cup, or almost empty. That's why people get drained, get sick. And so the way they help and serve and love is, it has its ebbs and flows. Sometimes they do it, other times they don't want to do it. But if you're coming from an overflowing cup, then you don't get tired. You don't get tired. And even if you get tired, because you only have a human body, you
Mm.
still don't energetically get drained. So I hope people will find time to be quiet first and think about what they really want in life, and then begin that with truly loving themselves, as in really telling themselves, I love you, I love you, my body. It starts there, and it's a very hard thing to do. That's why it takes practice, it takes time. But
Right,
we can start now.
right. It's not too late, right?
Never too late. Never, never, ever too late. And I've always believed that we are exactly where we need to be all the time. So if you're vegan 3 years ago and now you're not, that's exactly where you need to be right now. That's part of
Mm.
your journey, right?
Right,
But as long as you are consciously doing it for you, I think you're on the right path.
right. So, Jean, I'm really glad that we did this talk. I really
Me
enjoy talking
too.
to you.
Me
I
too.
wish you all the best with all these things that you're doing and your journey to Osaka. And you know, so lastly, tell everyone how they can get in touch with you, your social media.
Thank you, Chana. I am Jersey Jean 25 everywhere. So it's Instagram, Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse yet, Chana, let me know. You
Right.
should be there. um, Clubhouse, Facebook, everywhere. And then on LinkedIn, just look for me using my full name, Jean Alfonso-Decena. Um, so yeah, I'm all over. Just Google Jean Alfonso-Decena or Jersey Jean 25. You'll find me, and then you will find how to connect to In Silence. And then I just want to say thank you, Chana. I think when I found out that you were doing a podcast, I was so proud to be your friend.
Mm.
And I think music is life, no matter what kind of music it is. That's why, even though I'm now a yogi, I still have my rock days. I still listen to it, because yeah, no music is no life, right? Our
Right.
records.
Right.
I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful for you, that you're holding these conversations, and that you're trying to bridge Filipinos with the rock stars. I think that's super cool. And I wish you all the best also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon around
See
Rockwell
you. Yeah.
and in the group.
Yeah. Thank